Yeah, I know. I haven't been really active on my YouTube lately. I've been very busy at work, been very busy with Twitch streaming and everything. And now that my work schedule has changed to the point where I'm actually able to focus and do some YouTube things and Twitch things at the same time, then stuff might get better for me as of starting today, this week. But for right now, I would like to you guys to enjoy part 2 of Zia's amazing Ronin guide. This part of the guide will basically run over to some advanced tech, how to dodge archer rockets properly, and some more advanced techs with sword cord, lead wall, and some movement mechanics. So I hope that you guys enjoy Zia's amazing Ronin guide, the second part of it. Please be sure to check out his channel in the link in the description below. Please give him a sub if you have not done so already. Show him some Blueghost love because he is by far the best Ronin player I have known. Alright, spotlight's all yours, Zia. You're on.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my Expert Tier Gen 100 Mega Tutorial Part 2. Due to the fact that Ronin is a Strider type Titan, he and Northstar share the #1 slot for the lowest health pool in game. This can be made up for by using your sword block. However, you can mitigate so much more damage if you utilize your movement to dodge attacks whenever it is possible. Your phase can be used to dodge everything in game, but even with Temporal Anomaly, it can at most be used every 8 seconds. So in the 8 to 12 second gaps between your phase shifts, you're going to have to utilize cover when possible. And in situations where cover is too far to reasonably get to, you're going to have to dodge incoming shots with your dashes. Tone's tracking rockets, for example, can be dodged by dashing to one side at the right time. This will take some practice. Bring a buddy into a custom game and practice dodging his rockets. Archer tracking rockets AI is ridiculously broken, and when possible, you should just block it. Keep in mind that it will track you through your phase shift, so if you phase away from the direction it was fired from, it is very likely that it will track you through your phase and hit you. Instead, phase towards where it is shot. The angle becomes too much for it to turn to follow you, most of the time. If your phase is down, you can dodge an archer with 1 or 2 dashes, though it is tricky. Dash towards the direction it is coming from, but at about a 30-degree angle away from the origin. The goal is for the rocket to swing right past you, then dash backwards completely opposite from the direction you just dashed. The rocket will swing right past you again. Most of the time this works. Remember, for all of these dodges, you should be holding your sword block up anyway, just in case you still get hit. Unless you are 100% confident that you're going to dodge it and want to sneak some cheeky shotgun or arc wave damage in. It is all about minimizing the damage you are taking to the lowest possible amount. There is also a way to dodge archer shots without using any dashes or phasing altogether. TartThread61 showed me this mechanic very recently, and to give credit where it is due, I believe Dino Rush was the one who discovered this method of dodging archers. Simply sprint towards the origin of the archer rocket, but at about a 30-degree shift to the left or right side of the rocket. The rocket will narrowly miss and be pulled towards the ground. While you are in sword core, dodging attacks becomes much easier. The extra dashes core gives you just make you so much more agile. But even when you're outside of your core, you can wiggle and be evasive with your base movement speed. By walking side to side unpredictably, it will make it significantly harder for your opponents to hit you. Instead of just running straight towards the Northstar, try moving in zigzags every time you see her with a charged railgun shot. Same applies to Tones, Scorches, even Legions if you are close enough. You can make them miss so many shots just by walking side to side. You can even mitigate massive amounts of damage from an Ion Core just by walking side to side while blocking. Again, always block while dodging these things just in case. An interesting mechanic I discovered while editing this video is one that allows you to choose how far you dash. If your left stick is pointed in any direction, your dash will always be a full dash length. However, if you leave your left stick neutral and don't point it in any direction, then your dash will be decided based on where you are looking. If you're looking at Titan head level, you will dash a full length, and if you're looking straight up or straight down, then you will not move at all. As your aim deviates from Titan head height, your dash will gradually get shorter. You can apply this for some advanced footsies and extremely convincing fakes. By doing a half-length dash to bait a melee while you are out of range, then you can melee and walk forward into range. Something I really don't see a lot of Ronin players doing is zooming in with their shotgun shots. This tech does have some gray area, as if you do it wrong, it will become a bad habit and only negatively impact your play. In many cases, walking towards an enemy to reduce the range will do more damage than zooming your shot, since zooming lowers your movement speed substantially. However, if you zoom while you are dashing, this negates the decrease in mobility. You can also flicker your zoom while strafing. What I mean is zoom in, then shoot, and after you shoot, stop zooming. The point of zooming your shot is to increase your damage output. When zoomed, your lead wall shots will spread much less, extending the range. This will allow you to do decent mid-range damage that other Titans don't expect out of a Ronin. In close range, zooming your shots can pack more pellets onto the critical zone, increasing the damage per shot. Zoomed lead wall shots are fantastic at hitting pilots at long range, as most players completely underestimate the range. Once again, be careful with this. If you are zooming too often or at the wrong times, you're going to greatly hinder your performance. One habit that can benefit you is looking away from enemies while reloading. This prevents them from hitting your critical zone, and overall reduces the damage you will take. Note that if cover, phase, or dodging a shot is an option, that should be used instead. This can also be used to mitigate damage while starting Swordcore. While looking away, I recommend keeping track of the enemy with your minimap. Like butter, even with the buff sword block. In the case of a Legion Core, you're going to have to utilize Ronin's movement. Constantly use your dashes to get behind your opponent, use arc waves when you can to slow his turn speed down, just ideally you want to stay behind him. If they are using a really high sensitivity, don't worry as you can still juke their aim. What I mean by juke is start dashing to their right. As they turn, immediately dash left and start orbiting that way. When they catch up to you, start orbiting the opposite way. Remember, the goal is to stay out of their line of sight as much as possible. That applies to all Titans, not just Legions, but it is mainly useful against Legion players, as with the other Titans, you can mitigate/dodge all incoming damage with your blocks and dashes while standing in front of them. A key part to playing effectively is unpredictability. Make sure to make calculated but random moves. If your opponent knows exactly what you're going to do, they will exploit the move when you try it. So once in core, you get to play footsies. Basically, you want to bait the opponent's melees, either because you are too far for it to hit, or because you dash to their sides, and they miss the melee. You do this by moving in ways that bait their melees. An example movement is to dash towards them, intentionally leaving space for a melee to miss. You can improve this bait by meleeing even though you know that it is not going to hit them. Then, right when you're able to, dash away from them. If the enemy is skilled, he will more than likely melee in an attempt to pin you, but since you aren't near him, his melee will miss. Once again, dash towards him. Since he just meleeed, he won't be able to melee in time to pin you. Land a couple of melees, and then dash away and repeat. You don't want to hang out too long with a melee pin, because they will naturally reset it on their own, just by spamming. Sideswiping is the term for dashing to the sides of your enemy, instead of directly at them. If they don't react in time, and melee towards the direction you dashed, then they will miss their melee. How you position yourself can dramatically improve your survivability and damage potential. In part 1, I briefly talked about map geometry. Now I will discuss what this actually means and how to use it. By keeping a mental note of what walls, corners, and pillars line up to block enemy fire, you can position with confidence that you aren't going to eat a railgun shot or a Legion power shot to the side of the head. By knowing where they have to be standing to watch a certain spot, you can make predictions as to where the enemy should be standing. Take this example on Dry Dock. Where I'm currently standing, I can take damage from 3 sides. But by taking a few step backs, I have blocked one of the directions off entirely. By knowing map geometry, you won't have to turn to make sure that you cannot be seen by that direction. Of course, it depends on where the enemies are at. If you know somebody is going to enter your spawn through long haul, and that another enemy is coming through mid, you would not want to stand here. If somebody was pushing from mid and bridge side, you would want to stand here. Positioning well does not always mean taking into account all directions of possible fire. Instead, if you know where the enemies are, you can position accordingly. For example, if you are playing on Exoplanet and you know a Legion is in mid and you are fighting a Ronin by habitats, you can position around the habitats to prevent the Legion from damaging you and focus on the Ronin player. Positioning yourself near corners can allow you to dash from behind cover and put in some quick damage. Then quickly dash back to cover. This is called poking and is how to hold down lanes that you cannot push into. Not only should you keep the placements of enemies and walls in mind for your positioning, you should worry about elevation as well. A difference in elevation can mean quite a bit. If you are at a higher or lower elevation than your opponent, neither of you will be able to execute each other. If you are standing on top of a hill, an enemy can dash up the hill to execute you. but you are not able to dash down to execute them, unless they are spaced far enough away for you to fall during your dash. Low ground is ideal for executes in most cases, and high ground is ideal for cheesing enemies out of melees in most cases. Dashing from high points increases the length of dashes, and can dramatically increase the range of a phase boost. High ground is also important when fighting Ronins. If you are on top of a crate that is tall enough, then they will not be able to arc wave you from a distance, but you will still be able to arc wave them. This of course lowers your mobility while you stand on the crate, so I wouldn't recommend camping there for an entire fight. Just keep this in mind for your Ronin versus Ronin play. You have so many options for weaving together abilities into combination moves, and it really depends on the situation. I'm sure you will get the hang of it and come up with your own, but to help get you started, here is a handful of versatile and effective combination moves. The classic: arc wave someone, phase through them, drop smoke mid-phase. Simple, clean, effective, but this is really well known and good players will expect Ronins to perform this play. The Bamboozler: phase forward, dash backwards mid-phase while you drop smoke. More than likely they will turn around due to how common the classic is and lose you in the smoke. Fantastic way to juke somebody. The Core Start Animation Cancel: arc wave at about 85% core, then immediately after throwing your arc wave, start your melee, then dash forward into them. The arc plus melee will give you your core. As your melee connects, start your core and phase at the same time to dodge the vulnerability period of starting core. The Zia. Oh come on, I get to name at least one thing I found after myself, don't I? This is a super situational play to pull if you are executing a Titan and your phase is on cooldown. In the third person animation, you see an enemy is standing by you and is ready to rip you right as your execute ends. The goal here is to melee box him off before this happens. Since you have the third person view, you can easily see where they are. Hold your right joystick to spin towards them, and start your melee as close to the ending of your animation as possible. Right as your execute ends, hopefully you will spin and melee pin them. The higher your sensitivity, the more accurate they have to be to successfully execute you, since it takes less time for you to spin. This next part is a handful of tactics that should give you more options. Something I love to do is play Ring Around the Rosie with Titans. Take advantage of just how quick your Titan is by leading the enemy Titans around obstacles. Titanfall 2 maps are loaded with tiny pillar obstacles you can use for this. Just abuse your speed. Keep poking them with arc waves / shotgun shots. Be unpredictable with how you orbit the obstacle. The goal of course is to trick them over and over while you get shots in. In 2-on-1 situations, you can use the same concept to turn a 1-on-2 into a 1-on-1. Lead the slower Titan of the enemies around the obstacle, and keep in mind where they are at. Keep moving in whatever way does not allow them to take shots at you. Slow this person with arcs. Do what you have to do to keep them from getting to you. Keep the faster enemy Titan intentionally closer to you. Now you can 1v1 that Titan in peace. Get your core and kill them both. Note that this does not work consistently against good players, as one might just walk away so that they can get shots in from afar. Use an enemy Titan as the obstacle. Titans are chubby enough to use them as obstacles to reload behind. You can turn any Titan into an obstacle by arc waving them to prevent them from moving too much, then reload, start your core, or do what you have to do. Sure, you will most likely take damage from whoever you hide by, but at least you won't be getting hit by their team. It's all about prioritizing who would do the least amount of burst damage to you. Since you are trading taking damage from all of the enemies to taking damage from one of them, this can be super handy in open fields without cover, like parts of Kodai or Homestead. Using guerrilla warfare tactics can help you immensely while you are low on HP, or are trying to minimize how much damage you are taking. Basically, dash around corners, pop a few lead wall shots, arc wave, then retreat and wait for your cooldowns to come back up. Repeat. You don't want to run too far away from them, and don't expect good players to mindlessly chase you. They're going to want to hold down crucial parts of the map like battery spawns. But if the enemy is a Ronin and he is chasing you, you have an advantage of range. Since you are walking backwards while shooting and they are walking forward, your shells will hit them for more damage since they will walk closer into your range. One habit that can benefit you is looking away from enemies while reloading. This prevents them from hitting your crit zone and overall reduces the amount of damage you will take. Note that if cover, phase, or dodging a shot is an option, they should be used instead. This can also be used to mitigate damage while starting sword core. Since Ronin's health pool is basically non-existent without any help, You should grab batteries when it is smart/safe to do so. Read the situation and take safe batteries. If you're in a party chat, ask your nearby teammates to anchor the battery. This is done by shielding with their defensive abilities, providing covering fire, and even straight up standing in front of you and body blocking the enemy shots. If you play solo, or your teammates are not willing to help you take batteries, you can learn the different battery rushing routes that exist throughout the game. Don't fall into the trap of becoming reliant on batteries. All the battery will allow you to do is play more aggressively with less risk. You can essentially do your job easier. But if taking a battery is a possibility, you really should go for it. Taking a battery removes the need to contest that section of the map. Not only that, it removes the worry that an enemy player will take the battery. Though you should be able to be just as impactful when you don't have a battery. Since you are a close range Titan, more often than not you will find yourself close to ejecting enemy Titans. The damage from ejecting Titans hits pretty hard if you don't block it or phase to dodge the damage, so make a habit of sword blocking the damage, dashing away from an ejecting enemy, or phase shifting to dodge the damage. Keep in mind that your ejection does significant amounts of damage as well, so when you are going to eject, try to bait an enemy Titan in close before doing so. This is a risky move since if you mistime the ejection, you will get executed. Do this play with caution. It is possible to goose pilots on the way up, but the timing is so precise I rarely even try. If you're interested in trying, here's what you should keep in mind. Pilots are immune to damage for some frames, right as they eject. They lose their invulnerability about 15 or so feet up, so aim above there. With enough practice, these can be made consistent. If you don't have the patience, I instead recommend that you follow a pilot while they drop and hit them with a lead wall shot on the way down. When dealing with enemy pilots, a dash melee can be devastating in close to mid-range. Phase boosted melees also work for far range. If somebody grapples you, walk away from the warning direction and turn to melee. The quick sidestep just gives you more time and lowers the risk of a rodeo. Ronin's lead wall is well built to handle pilots. The spread makes it very easy to kill pilots in close range, and if you zoom your shot, it can reach quite far. Use whatever is cheaper to kill pilots, whether it is a melee or shotgun shot. If your melee needs a phase with it for it to work, probably go with the shotgun. It's all about preserving cooldowns for when you need them most. Using what I talked about in part 1 with the arc wave mechanics, you can kill pilots in and on buildings. If you are in sword core, your arc wave will one-shot pilots. If you are out of sword core, it takes 2 arc waves. Or, if you narrowly miss a lead wall that slightly damage them, you can arc wave to finish them off. Use executions to give yourself time for your cooldowns to replenish. Or if it is free, take it, as an execution removes the future threat of a pilot. It is usually beneficial to execute whenever possible. Sword blocking might save you. The key word here is might. I have done the research and you will still die sometimes while holding sword block. However, it is still worth using as you will die much more often during phase if you don't block. My advice is to not put all of your faith into sword block, as you can still die during phase even while blocking. Just be more careful when you phase, and know the range of phase. Expect good players to dash backwards when you phase through them. I still die to phase sometimes, it's just something Ronin players have to deal with. So yeah, thanks for sitting through all that. I really hope you've learned at least one new thing from this. If you didn't, then please drop a dislike because I have officially wasted your time. Oh, and let me know if I missed mechanics you think I should have included. And if you learned something handy, maybe spank that like button to let me know. Oh, and I tried my best to explain everything in a way that would make sense, but some of the things might have been tricky to follow. So if at any point I was confusing or the concept was just not explained well, then feel free to leave your questions, comments, or concerns in the comments below. These folk helped me get the clips I needed to showcase what I was trying to explain. Awesome people that took time out of their days to help me get what I needed to make this video possible. And a huge thanks goes out to Dinosaur123, my original Ronin sparring partner. We used to 1v1 over and over again on Ronin, and having a beast of a player to practice with changed everything. Big thanks goes out to Tiny Island Productions, aka Lethal Force. He helped me through the entire creative process, and without his help this video, well, to say the least, would have been horrendous compared to where it's at now. All of their YouTube or Twitch channels can be found below if they have one. I urge you guys to check them out as they are amazing players and amazing people. Last thanks goes out to you guys. the viewers. Sorry so much for the delay, and thank you guys so much for waiting for this long overdue tutorial. I'll do my best to put out faster, more consistent content in the future for Titanfall 2 and eventually for Titanfall 3. You can be sure that when Titanfall 3 comes out, my team and I will be testing everything and trying our best to find ways to exploit all of the new mechanics. Okay, bye!